If there's anything I've learned in 4+ years of making videos on YouTube in this genre, is that it's best to wait a little bit before making any public declaration on the differences you heard or the overall subjective impression of a reissue versus other pressings you might have. I get it. It's very tempting to get your video out there first, to ride the hype train. I get tempted by that too. As a matter of fact, I almost fell victim to it with this record. The very next morning after I heard the Rhino High Fidelity, I said, oh, let me make a first impression video. And I almost released it, but I'm glad I waited because this record's been like a chameleon. It's changed several times in my overall view of it. And today I'm going to explain exactly the differences I heard between an original US Kendun Pogo inscribed pressing and the Rhino High Fidelity, which has just been reissued by, that's just been cut by Kevin Gray from the original master tape, apparently. The day I got the reissue, that evening I played the reissue exclusively before I even touched the original pressing. I purposely didn't listen to the original pressing for a while. I mean, like a while, probably years. I resisted the temptation to pull it out, even when I knew this was coming. I wanted to hear the Rhino on its own merit before I got into comparing them. I put on the Rhino. I was like, oh, wow, it's really great to revisit songs like Monday Morning, and Warm Ways, and Landslide, and Rhiannon. It's like one after another. Fabulous, fabulous record. Revisiting the songs was great, and you were able to do that very well with the Rhino High Fidelity. It sounded really pretty, more pretty than I remember. I remember it being a bit hot and brash sounding, and on the Rhino, it was sort of lush and beautiful without any harsh edges. I was like, okay. It has a little deeper bass as well. Actually, quite a bit. A lot deeper bass. So there was that too. I liked hearing the deeper bass, but over time I was like, I think it might be slowing down things. I need to hear the original. Okay, so I went to the original, and my first impression was, wow, wow. This is the sound that the world fell in love with. It is very present, very clear, very dynamic, powerful, gorgeous, and lush. Okay, it's got everything and then some. It has a vibrancy that I didn't hear on the Rhino. Okay, so let me explain some particular instances. The first thing is right off the bat. So I played Monday Morning on this, a Rhino, and then I played it on this. It's like on the original, the voice projects out like this. So you hear a projection in the mid-range that just grabs you by the throat. The pounding drums and toms and snare or whatever it is are visceral with their impact. Not only the dynamic impact, but the edge. You hear it move quickly. The bass too. Everything's moving quickly. The tambourine, the background vocals, everything is vivid, just vivid. When you go back to this, it's like polite, kind of reserved. The warmth of the bass is nice at first, but then you realize it doesn't have the movement and snap of the original pressing. It also kind of colors things a little bit above. So acoustic guitars, like on Landslide, some of the female vocals are missing their silvery quality, that extension that goes up into the infinity. Here it's a little bit more rounded off. It's a little pulled back. It's a little colored by the amount of bass that's on this record. On Warm Ways, it's beautiful on the Rhino pressing. It really is. It's soft and beautiful, and it kind of works for that particular song. But then again, you listen to the original, and it has clarity and extension that's just so pretty as well. It's two different flavors, and it reminds me very much of my review recently of Diamonds and Rust, Joan Baez. The original versus the analog productions. The original had this scintillating top end that just went to infinity, and the voice was, yeah, a little forward, maybe a little bright, but it was visceral in a way that the AP didn't even try to emulate. They went in a different direction and made it warm, more integrated and lush. And it was just as valid, but very different. And I think that's the same thing here. It doesn't seem like Kevin Gray was going for the sound of the original pressing at all. I think he probably just went in his own direction here and made the record sound like he thought best. Of course, that's what he did. I don't think Rhino would have a lot of influence over how this comes out. I don't know, though. I don't know the politics of that. But I have noticed in the past, the Rhinos do seem to have a certain sonic signature, which is bright and detailed with a little less low end. And this is the complete opposite. So it's a little bit puzzling what happened here. But what was interesting is, even though I felt like the Kendun pressing was superior in most cases, over the week, I stopped listening to the Kendun and just listened to the Rhino. And each time I was like kind of seduced into it. I was like, wow, this is so pretty. It is a little bass heavy, but there is a warmth and beauty about it and no harsh edge. This is the only complaint that I've ever had about that original pressing is on other systems, and to a little bit of extent on this system, the top end and the presence is just on the border of getting to the point where it could get a bit fatiguing, especially on busier cuts like Monday Morning, like Blue Letter, like World Turning. That's where this can come across as a more listenable maybe for some people and some systems. But overall, these are two different records. They are two different records. They couldn't be more different. And I think fans of this album will want to hear the Rhino High Fidelity for themselves. I think it's a chameleon. It can sound different on different systems. I've heard some of these needle drops and stuff online, and they sound different than how the record comes across at my house. So I don't know exactly how this is going to play out for you, but you will notice those basic characteristics. A clear, dynamic presence on the original pressing with good snap in the bass and a flow about it that just is wonderful. Extension on the voices and lots of detail and like tambourines and things like that, edges of the drums. It's all there on the original pressing. On the Rhino, you're going to hear a lush, smooth, somewhat pulled back sound with deeper bass and an overall prettier presentation. It's not as visceral though. So those are the differences I heard. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know this sold out pretty quickly, so 5,000 of you have this record, and I'd like to hear from all of you. What do you think about this record compared to some of the other pressings that are out there, especially this original US Kendun pressing? I'll be very interested to know. Let me know in the comments. Until next time, I'm Scott for the Pressing Matters. Have a great day.